Hello, everybody, and once again, welcome to the Inven Global Podcast. I'm your host, Nick D'Orazio, joined by my faithful co-host, Eric Gindele. And if you see my Twitter, you already know this accolade. I'm joined by the realist in the biz, Wade Penfold, a.k.a. Dread Daddy, Dreadnaught Daddy, all those old nicknames, the Tempo Storms support champion. He was the absolute GOAT when it came to Heroes of the Storm, and that's how we first met. So, hey, Wade, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
What's up? Thank you. I mean, it's really hard to know what to say after a title as long and as impressive as the one you just gave. But it's an honor to be here, man. I'm excited to be able to talk about stuff. It's always a good time to be able to hang out with you. First time meeting Eric, but he seems like a chill dude, so I'm stoked.
Eric's the definition of chill. In our company, I am the fake gamer boy because it appears as if I play tons of video games, but compared to Eric, I'm not even on that level. So just for all of you know, we have always some like show notes and like things to prepare. And I swear to God, Eric knows so much about so many different games and IPs. I'm just like struggling to keep up. So I'm just this very simple esports boy. I play the same old games that I've been playing for like the past 10 years. But here we are, episode 25. This is our quarter episode, our 25-cent episode.
It's a big deal. Yeah. I consider myself a jack of all trades, master of literally nothing. Not even good at anything, honestly.
Actually, Eric, that brings up a very interesting question. What is the competitive game where you are absolute best in? Like someone has a gun to your head, said you must win against a random opponent. We're taking the average, medium, random scrub, and they're playing you in a game. What do you have the highest chance to win at?
Probably Ultimate at this point. I'm probably putting the most time with that. Yeah, I stay as far away from online as possible, but I've got a pretty good track record with like level 9 CPUs, and those guys don't fuck around. So.
You know what? That was endearing that you said that. So Smash Ultimate, level 9 CPUs. Mm-hmm. So Dread, what would your best game be? The same scenario.
That's a real tough. I think the old mentality inside of me goes, "Here's the Storm," right?
Course.
But I actually don't think that's a true statement anymore. Not that I don't think I could beat the average player, but like the coordination of a team and so many other elements, like I would much rather I think it would just be 1v1ing Rocket League. I could take an average player pretty consistently there.
Yeah. Is there 1v1 in Rocket League?
There is. There are 1, 2s, 3s, and a couple other game modes as well. But yeah.
How does that work? Do you have the full field?
Absolutely the exact same game, but it clearly shifts the standard gameplay. The game becomes a lot more short, a lot more about your like microcontrol and your ability to just be able to get it by one, right? Which makes again the micro is by far the most important thing when looking at ones.
So, for sure, yeah. I mean, I just think about like how I play Rocket League, and it's a lot of like spray and pray, like hope that like a teammate kind of hits it back in my general direction, take it from there. But I can't even imagine like soloing. I do not have the coordination for that. No way.
It makes you appreciate kickoffs a lot more than you ever used to, because you mess up one kickoff and it's already a goal because you're already looking the wrong way.
Yeah. So Dread, how long have you been like diving into like Rocket League? I know that you've casted it for some time now, right? And kind of after that Heroes of the Storm debacle in which all of our hearts were collectively broken, you seem to have found a nice little home going on with Rocket League. So, tell us about that. How has that been?
I mean, it's dope. Like the two primary games that I worked on as like a formal commentator post Heroes would be Apex Legends and Rocket League. Mm-hmm. And I definitely, I've always loved Rocket League. Like it is. I think the best way to put it was, even when I was playing Heroes of the Storm professionally, my guilty pleasure was Rocket League. It was the game I always aspired to be good at and never could figure out how to be able to do it. So it has been nothing but fun. I think the game, as a whole and as an esport, is really kind of an outlier in a lot of senses and has a lot of really cool nuance to it. So it's been amazing. Luckily, the Rocket League community didn't seem to hate my presence there, which was like probably your biggest fear when entering an existing space, right? It's
that's
true.
I'm
the new guy. Please don't hate me.
New guy. How can you hate Wade Penfold? Come on.
I think it's easier than you make it out to be, but
True. Well, you know what? That is true. When you enter a new esports community, you don't know the lingo, you don't know the memes, you don't know the slang, you don't know if what you're saying is like, bad advice, good commentary. That is true. From my experience with Rocket League, I've always been kind of in this mindset where it's just not for me. I've never played it, but I've always respected it for its simplicity to watch. It's so clearly hype. It has such a clear goal, and all of the people I know who love Rocket League, they're the most passionate fans ever. It's a passion that I miss in a lot of esports. Like they really not only watch Rocket League, but like play it as well. So actually, before we went live, you showed us that you had a little Rocket League toy. Around?
Yeah. I actually have multiple of them. But this is like the Octane, the Hot Wheels Octane with the Rocket League logo. I actually have one signed by Gimmick, which is pretty dope. He's a professional player on the old Cloud9 roster.
Nice. See,
yeah, I'm a fanboy.
Yeah, you know what? I think more esports needs that. We need collectible toys. We need all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. More than I forgot the name of the brand that makes like basically. Pop? Yeah, there you go. I was going to say Pops. A character for like everything, like something more than just that. Because at this point, those are so abundant. Holy cow.
They suck. They are the worst fucking collectibles of all time. I live right above the Funko store in Hollywood. Yeah. And there was like a line around the block yesterday for like seemingly no apparent reason. People just wanted Funko Pops and were willing to like wait like 20 minutes in line. Half of them didn't have masks on, so you can really like kind of gauge a sense of like.
So Eric, like, as esports a boomer, I'm qualified to make this connection. Funko Pops are just the Beanie Babies of this generation, but for nerds.
I was going to make that translation. Like to me, I see them so much as one and the same.
Like it's just they just collect them at this point. I don't even know if they like them, but there's this weird secondhand market and this value and there's all these interesting collectibles.
Yeah, there's apparently 1 million of them. And I don't know, each one is just so ugly and cheap.
Eric, have you seen your Funko Pop? There's an Inven Global line of Funko Pops.
I bet there is.
God, that'd be so dope. One day, I'm putting that on my vision board right now.
Man, that's not the play. You don't flame them and then hope that you get one made of you. Like,
no,
I don't think that's it, Chief.
Yo, welcome to the Inven Global Podcast, sponsored by HyperX. I hate this mic, but man, no, I'm kidding, HyperX. Thank you so much. This mic is fantastic. I love I can just a button. Bam, look at that segue and a sponsor. So anyways, when we start this podcast, we usually have a little tradition. We say what games we've been playing, and the running joke is how boring I am. I play the same games. I'm still playing Super Smash Bros. Melee on Slippy.gg, but I will give another special shout-outs to them. They have made it possible to play Melee online in such a fun, lagless way. So I play tons of Melee. I just grind out games. Still play Heroes of the Storm. Anna's broken right now. Who else is broken right now? You got Acacia's broken right now. You got all of who else? I'm gonna also go and say ETC's broken right now. So there's my rant for all you old HOTS fans that are still watching. The meta is a really interesting place. Oh, by the way, Dread, you would love this. A Rhaegar and Bloodlust is just it's
the hot.
You press R and you win. Like it's still we're still there. You just press R and you win, and it's so funny because sometimes the Rhaegar on your team is asking, "Go guys, like when should I press?" Like literally when you see the other team, press R. We click on them and we win the team fight. So that's currently where my scope is. Eric, it says here you've been playing Ghost of Tsushima. That's that new game, right? That just came out?
Yeah, it's the new Sucker Punch game. It's like the new hotness in the AAA space right now. Yeah, it's a samurai game, open world samurai game. Super good. I actually just came off of Sekiro, which is another very.
That's the die twice one, right?
Yeah. So it's like a Dark Souls game basically with a little more traversability. But so I kind of went in with this. The way that they were marketing was kind of like this. Oh, you can take enemies down in like one shot if you're good enough. But it is more like an old school Assassin's Creed game. More like Assassin's Creed 2 before they went like RPG with it, with like the levels above all the enemies' teams, and you're picking up like different swords and stuff. It's super good though. I actually wasn't going to pick it up at launch, but I had Animal Crossing pre-order credit that I couldn't redeem from GameStop because COVID hit and I couldn't actually pick it up, so I just transferred it. But
you still haven't been playing Animal Crossing?
No, I picked it up digitally.
Oh, thank God! I was so worried.
Yeah. No, I haven't touched Animal Crossing in a bit, but
am I going to be kicked out if I say I haven't played Animal Crossing?
You know what?
It's fine.
That's okay, but I will say that Animal Crossing is cheaper than therapy for me.
That's true.
And the fact that I can't travel, can't leave my house, can't go to I've literally created a fighting game arcade on my island, and it's so sad. I make it so nice. I have my little fighting game cabinets there. The music's good, and I just walk around it, and it's empty. And I miss so bad being able to go to fighting game tournaments and arcades that I've made one on my island. But anyways, you know what? It's so funny, Eric. I would be interested in Ghost of Tsushima if there is any sort of PvP element. Is there, or is it a purely single player game?
It's all single player. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. They have this really cool like duel system, which is like a lot of one-on-one fights. I'm getting close to the end of it. Actually, it came out like Friday, but I've just been like pumping it out.
Have you ever played
over the weekend after work and stuff? So yeah.
Have you ever played the game Onimusha for the PlayStation 2?
No.
Okay, well, I'm too much of a boomer. I think because it sounds similar. So, all right, I've been playing Melee. I've been playing HOTS. Wade, you've been playing Rocket League, right? That's your mainstay. You're finished work, time to unwind.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that. If I would leverage or talk about any other game, I would probably say I think Legends of Runeterra is one that in the card game realm has actually captured my interest, which is if you know my background and have ever heard me talk about video games, the second RNG is a core element. I kind of immediately walk away from it. But out of all of them, that one has definitely been probably one of the most appealing for me.
Dude, you're the second guest. Sajam last week was saying the same thing, dude. Legends of Runeterra.
It's got some positives to it that I don't like. It's not like it is, mechanics that have been unheard of in the trading card game space because they've been around for so long, right? But I think it's a really unique balance of translating it to a digital space while also still having a universe that if you've played any Riot game, you can empathize with to some extent.
Yeah.
But then having those mechanics that balance out in a way that make it feel a little bit more creative than most of them.
Man, Riot is slowly taking over. I mean, really. I feel as if they're just putting out good game after good game. Now, you must have tried to dive into Valorant, right? When that was like the hype thing. What is your experiences with Valorant? Are you more of like an FPS guy?
So I will admit that I was originally the first thing that got me in competitive gaming was FPSs. So I actually adore them, even though, obviously I've had more success in other genres.
Yeah.
I like Valorant, but I will admit that I struggle with class-based shooters innately. I think the reason why Apex Legends stands out to me a little bit is that whenever you make a class-based shooter and there's no individual scaling for each player and the performance that they have in that, it makes the classes really hard to kind of balance overall with the interactions that they have with each other. And so by having that individual scaling, which doesn't really exist in BRs, but to some extent does, and the fact that your good performance likely leads to more loot, which then translates to a superior stance in the later stages, I think it's a little bit more forgiving there. So I've struggled with getting behind it because of that class element, but watching it at the more high-end level, I have begun to, I think, reappreciate it, right? After taking a break from the hype of beta and everything. I do admire some of the elements of it, but...
Yeah, I say, you know what? I resonate with, taking a break from a Valorant and then reassessing it and, liking it more. I actually kind of did the similar thing I played so much of it in beta, and then I feel like I got slightly burned out because, listen, I'm no, CSGO pro. Yes, I played CS when I was a teenager, pretty much everyone. So I know the basics. So I think during the beta, I was able to put on the illusion that I was somewhat good because there were so many absolute beginners. But now that Valorant's out and it's found its audience, I'm not even close on that level. There's just, and dude, and it's so crazy, man. I hear kids, straight up kids in voice comm. That has really taken me for a loop because I think Valorant is the first game because you don't really need voice comms and heroes when you're just grinding, and people don't really do voice comms in MOBAs that often, but in Valorant it's just this given. So I'm sure, whatever. Dude, there was this one time I was literally in the middle of one teenager is cyberbullying another teenager, and I'm sitting there like the adult in the room. I'm like, hey man, just don't react. That's what he feeds off of. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? It's so stressful. Now I'm sitting there and I'm getting flashbacks of me like as a kid. It's just too much. I hate playing with kids. I know it sounds strange, but I think that's, to me, like Valorant has, I love to watch Valorant. I've found myself more a Valorant fanboy in just watching streams, but there's got to be something to be said about, as you get older, the fact that these competitive games I love, they're just, they're getting dominated by more and more young kids. Eric, do you see any of that in any of the games do you play, like, like in the fan bases? Because, because you love Nintendo, you're definitely a, like, Nintendo fanboy. Do you see that happening to you, too?
I wouldn't say I'm a Nintendo fanboy.
What? Really?
No,
I thought that was definitely part of your MO.
No.
Okay.
I'm more of like a Sony fanboy than anything.
I did not know that. The more you learn. Episode 25. I can't wait to learn more about your gaming habits, Eric.
Sure. I've been playing a lot of Brawl Stars, as you know. I've gotten back into it since they introduced like their Battle Pass equivalent or something. So
you definitely play with kids in Brawl Stars.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it becomes immediately apparent. They just introduced like little emojis that you can pop up every like 8 seconds or something in the middle of a game, and that fucking sucks.
Isn't it incredible?
Griefing.
People like
it gets real toxic.
How do you become toxic with an emote every 8 seconds?
It's strategic, you know. It's really like these kids like get into your psyche, and they know exactly when to do it. They know which like frowny to put the frowny face or the sad face or the character face or something. And it gets under your skin for sure.
How does
you can't like report anyone in that game, which is shitty.
So how does toxicity look like in Rocket League? Because now I'm so curious. Like, how do you like?
Wait, what?
Like, how do you like bad manner someone in Rocket League? Like, are there things like that?
I would say the number one way is like when you have enough confidence. Like the traditional form of it is like a turtle goal, which is like you flip them on your hood, and as long as you don't put any inputs for flipping, you'll remain on your hood and you can boost to the ball. So like it's a clear goal, and instead of scoring the obvious goal, you just flip to your hood and really make sure that you send a message. I would say that's level 1. Level 2 is you fake going for that ball and then cause your opponent to basically feign an attempt at defending it and then proceed to let it just casually roll in again. Like there's multiple echelons of like how you can BM, but there's no like communication process. It's purely like through play you have to demonstrate, I think I'm better than you and I'm going to do that in front of you. For
sure.
Yeah, Brawl Stars has like a soccer mode where you basically see the exact things.
I guess I take that back. You can spam and chat. What like not all players are gonna have chat, right? You can always score and go what a save on a dude, right?
What
like, you have the opportunity to just be like what a save, or like wow. Or if like they get a bad touch and you get an easy goal, like great pass. Like you can play them in that sense.
So they're
they're all compliments for your team. Yeah, they're pre-made messages for your team that then when translate into like against an opponent, when they made the misplay, it makes them look really poor.
Dude, I swear to God, there's like an art to it. There's an art to using the carefully orchestrated, some PR group tried to say, okay, we can have a player communication, but we want it as friendly as possible. Nope. Gamers will find a way to even do something, like good game, good pass. They're going to make that salty. I'd say in Melee, the most disrespectful thing you can do is just to play extremely slowly. Like someone's sitting there, wave dashing back and forth, they're super quick, and you just casually walk up and throw them. Or you just casually just walk up and you're just like, you're in their head so much that you just kill them easily and you just stand very still. You see that happen. You see players, it's almost like, I'm not even going to give you the respect to even try to do movement because clearly we're not on the same level. That happens a lot in Slippy, and it's so disrespectful. It's insane. But I love it. Actually, speaking of disrespect, we actually just wrote a story about it I love. Smash pros have been speed running their attempts to beat players online with every single character. It's like these Iron Man attempts, and they're so good that they have to, make up these alternate win conditions just to make it interesting. Yeah. I think that stuff is hilarious because now they want them to rage quit. So on the first stock, they try to style as hard as possible because if they rage quit, that's the fastest possible split you can get because they're literally speed running online play. So, man, I love to see it. I love to see it. So as we get on to our show topics, what do we got here? We got Valorant banned. Ooh, before we get to that spicy one, because I would love to hear your takes on this Valorant banning, let's talk about Rocket League going free to play. So it's big news in the Rocket League space. Rocket League was going to be released on the Epic Game Stores on PC at the same time it goes free to play later this summer. Once Rocket League goes free to play, anyone who already owns it will be able to access it on any platform, including Steam. They're going to be like revamping all sorts of major things like tournaments and challenges. So pretty much this is a big move by Rocket League. So Wade, as our resident Rocket League expert, what do you think about the timing of all of this? Like, why do you think this is happening now? Like, do you think this is something that the community has been asking for some time? I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
It's super hard to know exactly why now. I think you could immediately look at Epic's acquisition and just go, well, that's maybe the initiative towards that direction, right? I think it's also one of those like, well, the game's been out long enough at a $20 mark that they found a way to be able to ensure that they thought it would just be more popular in a free-to-play manner. So then, the microtransactions would make up for whatever difference is there. But I think it's obviously fantastic. Like, it's a game that is truly should be open to all audiences, as we've talked about with the toys, right? Part of the reason that's available is because it's not like it's not rated teen, it's E, and it's just a bunch of cars playing soccer. So the more players, the more people having interest, and the more people having the opportunity to do so without an economic hurdle, I think is just outstanding. I can't help but feel like a lot of people maybe wish it had happened earlier, because the average like kind of paradigm around what a game's lifespan is, right? I think sitting on like the 5-year threshold, it's kind of like, ooh, is that the time in the window to truly get the most out of it? But it's not a negative by any means.
For sure, And if you look at the lifetime numbers of players, Eric, this is like 75 million players, 5 billion matches played, 29 billion goals scored. I mean, Rocket League has been going strong for some time. Eric, do you think you're going to give Rocket League a pass now that it's free to play?
Yeah, I mean, I picked it up when it was free for PlayStation Plus like years ago. That was like back in 2016.
Dude,
it was like, I think it was like as the game released, it was also free on PlayStation Plus, which was like I think a really, really good move on Psyonix's part. I mean, when you see like acquisitions of this type, when you're basically like removing the ability to purchase a game on one platform and moving it to other, you definitely see like some downsides. But just kind of reading through this, there's absolutely no downside for like any of the players. Like if you have the game on Steam, you can keep playing the game on Steam. If you've had the game before they go free to play, you get all these like bonuses, you get all the DLC that they've like released up to this point, which I'm sure is a ton. You get like legacy packs, you get like established in like whenever you started playing the game. I mean, Rocket League's been like a pioneer in the crossplay like space before like anybody really. I mean, they've been crossplay for years now, I think.
There's probably going to be a wave of new players then, right? Wave of new players that.
Oh yeah, sure.
And with that, it always affects the community. Maybe there's going to be new ways in which you can create content. There's going to be new opportunities for streamers, new like opportunities to take advantage of that. I've always said that one of the things that people, because it's kind of like an old school mentality to write like an FAQ or to write like a guide for games. But I actually think that in this advent of like Twitch and YouTube, the like amount of guides and resources for new players is actually like it's gotten worse. Like there's more guides, but the quality of them is less. So I think something like Rocket League probably thrives because it's pretty simple to understand. And I'm sure
And how perfectly does Rocket League pair with Fortnite, when you put them like side by side on the Epic Game Store? And it's like people that are playing Fortnite, like once they go and like start up that game, they're going to see Rocket League right next to it, completely free to play. I think this is going to be like a huge boom for the player base of Rocket League.
Also, and I maybe this is going a little bit too deep, and I definitely didn't research this heavily before throwing it out there.
We can never go too deep on the Inven Global Podcast.
Well, like, I mean, to my understanding, some of the headlines that I've been able to see is that, Epic's Game Store is actually garnering a lot of traction. recently, and that's one of those moments where that is only probably going to be able to further that, even though as it reads, it doesn't seem like it's isolatory to those who were interested in Steam or in the past did. But the fact that there are more games of pretty high prominence being displayed on their platform, I think really honestly puts Epic in a pretty good position to start expanding outward and kind of being bigger. It's hard to say empire than they were, because they own Fortnite and its prime, but like I think what I mean is to spread themselves into more games, so it's not just a kind of teeter-totter situation like it was with Fortnite.
Well, and you're definitely right, because like wasn't there that time in which like the Epic Game Store used to be getting tons of flack, right? Like, Eric, don't you remember there was all those headlines and there were the people who were, like, oh, I'm never going to go in the Epic Game Store. I forgot the exact context behind it. Eric, do you remember why that was?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first person to like defend the Epic Game Store for what it is in its current state, but especially with like all the free games and stuff that they're giving away. But yeah, I'll say when it first launched, just like very, very simple features that you would see on like any other
that was it.
Like PC marketplace were just not there.
There
was no like friends list. You couldn't like put games in like a cart. You can't wish list anything. And people, I mean, it really took a lot of guts on Epic's part to kind of go all the way with this marketplace idea.
I mean, they're challenging Steam. It's
so much so that they can like compete against Steam, and that takes a lot. I mean, it's just natural that like all the Steam fanboys are gonna
come down hard on you. It makes sense.
Yeah, they're gonna come down hard on the Epic Game Store just for basically nothing. But they made Grand Theft Auto 5 free to play for like an entire week or something, and crazy moves like that are really positioned Epic well.
I think they're honestly, the more I've spent time thinking about it, in an extremely well-off position. In the fact that they now own an engine, and one of the most prominent engines being utilized in the entire space now are taking over the store aspect, which is a direct competitor to Steam. And I know it's a challenging one. They have, I think, some of the tools to be able to make that happen. And amongst some of the more popular games that exist in the gaming space right now, like I think a lot of people like to look at Epic and think just Fortnite, but when you look at their decisions made over the past year and a half, they are slowly becoming a we were talking about, some of the bangers that Riot's kind of putting out, but I can't help but feel like Epic is low-key, possibly over the next decade, going to be a company that thrives.
The moment Epic makes a MOBA, I'm there. Like, I'll play it. I'll play the hell out of an Epic MOBA, because I know it's going to be supported. I know it's going to be huge. I know they're going to have awesome, in-game events. I, too, as the official esports boomer of this podcast, Fortnite and me don't like necessarily, we don't really connect. However, I have always respected how they're pushing the envelope of what a game can be, how a game can interact with their players. I absolutely love whenever they do those musical tours. I love when they do those huge concerts. And, really, like, these are the type of things that other game companies could have done. They just never had the vision to do it. No one had the vision to be like, hey, you know how we have this massive in-game universe? What if we put on this amazingly artistic, surreal, like cinematic and like musical experience that like transcends what it is that you're doing, and has this like, no one was even thinking about that. So it's like, just Fortnite, and I did have some issues with them when they were essentially like selling these dance moves that like rappers and other artists were making. That was a like little iffy, and there's actually still some weird tension between that, because like, say for example, I forgot what it was, but there was this dance that essentially Chance the Rapper popularized, and it's like one of the like top selling dances, and it's like, well, like is that Chance the Rapper's dance, and he's not making any money off? So there's still that tension, but I actually will agree that in a current game industry where it seems like all of my favorite game companies are going by the wayside because they're not doing anything new, Epic continues to do new stuff, and it continues to push the envelope.
That would be my number one argument as to why people are underestimating them. It's even beyond just that. Because they own the engine, they're also, over the last year, there was a headline in March 20th of 2019 highlighting the idea that $100 million is being given to them, to developers underneath, as long as it's using their engine. And though that may seem really dumb, I would highlight the fact that if you actually look at some of the biggest competitive games in the landscape over the past 10 years, none of them were actually created by a game designer from a development team. Almost all of them are an alteration of an existing mod of an already existing game.
Dude,
and so in order to not internalize that developers and go, we will make the next game, they're just like, what if we just trust the people to make cool shit and we'll find the one that's the coolest and then promote that out of nowhere. And I think that kind of thought process is really setting them up to possibly be a game changer. Pun intended? I don't know.
No, yeah. I think the pun was right. They are a game changer. Eric, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, we talked about this last week, but Blizzard's kind of taken that mentality and kind of had the opposite kind of...
Yeah, Blizzard is doing the opposite of good things.
Where they're basically like covering their own ass, so there's never another Dota, situation where basically Warcraft 3, there's terms of service, like anything that you make in the game is ours, first and foremost. Same with the Overwatch creation tool. Just bad stuff.
So you want to hear something interesting about Warcraft Reforged and all of their patch notes and all of their like corporate messaging and everything? They actually stopped calling it Warcraft Reforged. There's so much negative press and negative Google search.
Really?
Yeah. So literally, they are now the Warcraft 3 team. It's Warcraft 3. The games, they're just calling it Warcraft 3 again. They're not calling it so it's really interesting to see that happen. And actually, Eric, on your point about, like Blizzard doing things wrong, because man, I love to dunk on Blizzard on this podcast, and it's not out of hate, it's out of love, because you just see someone slowly become like a shadow of their former self. I think that Dread made a perfect point when he said all of the big games have just been like mods people make, and I think people have gotten stuck in like big game developers, like you don't want to try to be making the next like battle royale game, because like I don't think that's going to be the future. The future is going to be this genre we've never even seen before. Like the future huge game that's going to be on some other level is going to be in the same way that we've never heard a battle royale before it happened with a player unknown. It's going to be some other game. And like if you're the type of person that is actively, combating the creators that are trying to use your engine, then I think that the next new cool genre is probably going to come from Epic, because it's going to be coming from their engine. And I can't wait for it. As a student of Warcraft 3 custom games who have loved playing all those bizarre and absolutely insane games, I'm still waiting on a AAA, a Footman Frenzy game, right? I'm still waiting on a AAA, a Uther Party, right? I still think like there are so many hidden gems that these mod creators have made, and I don't know. I feel like that's the future, because you're definitely seeing it in the mobile space. There are these mobile games that, dude, oh my god, have you seen? We've mentioned Brawl Stars before, but have you seen Brawl Stars esports scene?
I've been just started to get my first eye on it ever. I definitely have not dove deep though.
It's insane. You look at look at the YouTube views on their World Championship. This thing has like 16 million views. Like what? Like so. Dude, Overwatch.
Mobile games in general are definitely taking a step up. I think over the past 2 to 3 years, I've noticed a significant uptick of even for as we're putting ourselves in the boomer category, I even am going like, hey, this might be something that I take interest in a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, well, speaking of serious things, king of segues, there's been some serious bans from Valorant Pro Play, and it's all because of cheating. And Dread, I would love to kind of pick your brain on this, because you've been a competitive player. I'm not sure how people can cheat in HOTS or cheat in a MOBA. It's actually much more like prevalent in FPS games. But big news: Fox and Jack Weak Huguet have been permanently banned from Valorant for cheating, and the players confirmed it themselves on Twitter. The two previously competed for Team Athletic Strong Muscular Ragers, which is a nice team name, Team ASMR. They stated that none of their teammates knew they were cheating, which I'm not sure if how that's possible, because I feel like you would maybe get a sense of that. You're seeing their gameplay. But they just say on Twitter, we want to apologize against anyone, importantly, Not only did we screw the results of the outcomes of the tournaments, rank matches, we stole the attention of the true talent, the money, yada, yada, yada. They're very, very sorry for being caught cheating. So I'm curious, do you think that there's any path for redemption when it comes to someone who cheats and organized competitive play? Or do you think it's just like, nope, that's it, banned from the game, you're done? Because I actually heard from some people that these players were actually truly talented. Some people were mourning their talent because they didn't even need to cheat. They didn't even know why they were. And yet they were. What do you think, Wade?
It's tough. I think that there are more things at hand than just the element of cheating on that idea. It's a sense of morality and humanity and how much time can maybe heal some of those things and like them be able to come back from that, right?
Yeah.
Like I can tell you my stance is not really. No. Because like, okay, there's a difference from like going, wow, I need to feel good about myself, and somehow through the act of cheating and dominating nerds in the one game I'm trying to prove myself, I'm going to act on that.
Yep.
But to do that in a sense that I am then looking to get paid and sponsored and still continue those practices beyond that threshold, that is for me irrecoverable. That is now I know I'm doing something unethical and wrong, but then I am also willing to profit on that until I get caught.
Yep.
So I would say when you have those level ambitions, like your average cheater who just downloaded like Valorant cheats, right, and like made something happen versus somebody who is like, yeah, so we looking to get picked up anytime soon. Like there's a very different thought process between those, and one is trying to get as much as they can with as little energy and effort as is physically possible, no matter how talented they may be.
Yep.
It doesn't change the fact that they weren't talented enough to justify those things on their own actions. So
it's true.
For me, that's where the breaking point is on that. Is like, that level of ambition is something that I would consider no. But also people, especially in modern day, seem to not really hold on to the actions of human beings for long periods of time. Yeah. And I think it's very likely that, yes, there is a sense of redemption and opportunity to recover, even though I would go, no, you were willing to get whatever you could until somebody told you not to. And that is a problem in and of itself.
And even in their like apology, you know, like I'm not trying to like mind read or anything, but sometimes it reads like, we're sorry we got caught, because it's like, well, you know, if you were so guilt-ridden about all of this, and if you were so aware and, oh, I'm sorry we saw so-and-so, but like you're essentially taking all of the hard work of the people that are not only putting faith in you, but the team that's putting faith in you. Like, it's really, really a bad look for esports. And also, by the way, shout outs to Valorant anti-cheat. I thought that was like one of the biggest things, right? I thought there was like this, you know, like rootkit you like install on your computer and it makes sure you don't cheat. I'm actually reading this article that we wrote, and I don't know how they cheated, and I'm not sure if like Riot went out and like explained it. That's probably not in their best interest, but apparently they were cheating and their teammates didn't know about it. So Eric, what do you think, man? Do you think cheaters will ever prosper, or do you think no, they're done and their competitive games are done?
I mean, I think this is just the stupidest move ever. I mean, it's bad enough when you see people like allegedly cheating in like football or soccer, you know, and they're getting paid like millions of dollars to do so with deflated balls or whatever you can. But in like a esport, like when you break it down, it's all really just like ones and zeros, right? And like everything's trackable, everything's traceable. Like,
so Eric, you were saying this was stupid because they were eventually going to get caught.
Yeah, and just not having like the foresight to realize that. Like, I can't imagine how easy it must be for, you know, people that have watched this game for like thousands of hours to like immediately pick up on something, you know, that just doesn't look right, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, that scrutiny is probably a part of it. I know that from actually I feel like this is like ancient history, but there was a Hearthstone player who was caught cheating. It was funny. The guy had a like reflective surface in the back of his stream, and he was competing in an online tournament, and the like reflective surface saw that he was literally watching the stream of the tournament, which was like against the rules. He actually then went on to compete in Heroes of the Storm. So he was cheating.
Yes, Hosty.
Yes, Hosty.
That was his name.
But they called him Ghosty. That was it. That was the nickname they gave him, Ghosty. So, you know, it seems as if there has been a history of, cheaters finding some new game, but it feels like this style of FPS cheating, it's a whole different culture. Like, when you get caught aimbotting and shit, it's real. Like, people are really heartless about it.
Well, and I think it goes beyond just that, because one of those examples is, I don't think it's so much a showcasing of the genre as much as the team versus solo oriented game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have a much bigger problem with you being willing to deceive your teammates and attempting to garner as much as you were, versus I can very easily see, that doesn't defend it, but I at least can see the lying to yourself to get to a point of like, I deserve this, or I want this so badly that I'm willing to make those choices. But that doesn't come at the cost of literally any other human to waste time working with you to try and build something greater than what you are on your own. And that alone is like the major difference in my perspective between those two situations.
And those Hearthstone players and also Magic the Gathering players, because they have a long history of cheating too. There was one of the most common things they would say is that they knew that they thought they deserved it. Like they know they're good at the game. They know but they just keep getting bad luck, keep getting bad RNG, keep getting bad draws. So they justify it to themselves now. Well, come on, I just needed to qualify for this event because if I didn't qualify, then I wouldn't have made. So it's like, I also see what you mean there. I think too, the thing in which makes this so, I guess, so predictably heartbreaking is there's an element that I mentioned before. These guys were apparently very, very skilled players. Like, people were even going to say that, they had what it took to really be in, the top echelons of Valorant. So
but they didn't.
Yeah, but see,
I
maybe
can
they
prove
didn't.
that, because the major element is that's to act as if shooting and clicking heads is the only way to become greater in an esport. You're diminishing all the other elements of the team dynamic, being able to clutch it out under pressure, to be able to work as a unit. And so they didn't have those things and then took the things to overcome what they didn't have, which I would argue is a mental fortitude and understanding of some of the things necessary to get to that point, and most importantly, the damn work ethic. That is why esports people are so badass. Is because of how much they are willing to self-impose improvement on a day-to-day basis with very little often to be confident that they will be able to obtain at the end of that line.
Dude,
but
that is so true.
In this situation, that is not the case. And obviously, I do not know the fine details of how they cheated versus not cheating, but I'm just saying as a general whole in this circumstance, I don't care how gifted they were. They could have literally been number one on the leaderboard in every single region. It is possible to be on the leaderboard. Why do not all people who dominate leaderboards translate to great esport players?
Dude, it's so
true.
And
that is case in point. It's that is not all it takes. There is way more to it. And that those human beings were still willing to leap over and do unethical things and deceive teammates amongst competitors to be able to ensure that they got what they considered, air quote, possibly theirs.
Yeah. You know what? It's so true. I was actually reading up, there is a scientific difference between choking and panicking. Because it's very similar, you would think, they're the same thing, and it was actually this whole study of pro players and tennis players, and they were trying to. So they say that choking is when someone who is so skilled, they have the skill, they have the elements, but because of the pressure, they lose that sense of that autopilot, natural just talent that they've honed on. They think about it too much because they want to win so badly. They get in their head, and it's they immediately, it's they're an amateur player again. They lose all of the qualities. Whereas panicking is when you know you're not skilled, you know you're not good enough, and then you panic and you don't even have a chance. So I'm willing to bet that these guys probably caught themselves choking. And they didn't understand it. They didn't understand. Listen, I'm so good. I'm skilled enough. Why is it I can't handle the pressure? Why is it whenever we're playing a match, I am missing shots? And then they probably justified to themselves, it's worth it because I know I'm skilled enough. That's actually a very, very good point. People don't often think about all the things, what it takes to be an esports pro outside of just the raw, mechanical skill. So, yeah, screw them.
Yeah, No, I mean, it's just it's extremely challenging, and I think to not to add anything to myself here, but give my own personal experience directly relating to what you're talking about. One of the most important things as a shot caller in Heroes for me was to learn a baseline solution to every circumstance I thought I would engage in. And so that way, that even when I knew my emotions were leading me in one direction or another, I had a sense of an emotionalist rule book that I would try and kind of write for myself is if I do not know, or if my emotions seem to be so high that I don't feel like I can come to a conclusion, I have a default what I have said when my emotions weren't relevant choice that I should be making as a unit.
Yeah,
and that is again, that mental strength that it takes. I maybe knew that I was able to do those things, but it doesn't change the fact that when there's a crowd sitting in front of me cheering for my own death, that is going to make me feel differently about what it was like to just sit in front of my room and my computer as usual and keep playing the game as the way in the landscape that I knew how to play the game.
Man. Eric, have you ever been in a high state? Like, you've competed in some tournaments, right?
Never.
Oh no! I kept begging you to go to a Smash Ultimate tournament with me.
Yeah, it never
Man,
happens. Not before COVID.
Yeah, that was before COVID. Honestly, if COVID hit, I probably could have. You know, back in the day, I actually had my competitive past too. I used to be a competitive Warcraft 3 player when I was like 16, 17. There was these small leagues, and I would compete in these leagues, and yeah, man, it was, you're so on the head when you can. It's almost as if there is this zone you get in when you're just playing and there's no pressure. Anything I could do to recreate that when I was playing league matches, that's what I would do. So, like, I remember I'd have, like, snacks next to me, and I'd have, like, all my favorite stuff next to me, and I'd have my music playing. Just anything to try to trick myself into playing. This isn't a league match. I'm not trying to qualify for anything. And I think that's actually super, super relevant. By the way, speaking of loving Dreadnaught, Wavepunk just gave you a shout-out in the chat. So, he says, being live on a show won't stop me from supporting my boy Dreadnaught. So, shout-outs to you, Wavepunk. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much. Wavepunk is a commentator in the World of Rocket League and also the host of Twitch Rivals, for anybody who doesn't know.
Oh,
he's a good friend and a good dude.
The Wavepunk shout-out. Well, now you are immortalized in our quarter episode podcast. So shout-outs to you, Wavepunk. Eric, do you want to introduce us to our next topic? We got an Xbox showcase. I know that you've been excited for this. You have been excited to see these new Xbox games. So I know from just seeing on Twitter, Halo Infinite's probably the biggest one, right? Like, people have been losing their minds because of Halo Infinite.
Yeah, that's what they opened the show with. Basically, just take the last Halo game and try to picture it as an open world game, and that's basically what you get. Like, they ran through basically the gauntlet of, like, oh, you'll jump into a warthog and you have all the same games and you're all the same enemies and you have a grappling hook this time, and they'll open up the map and there's all these, like, objectives all over the place. And
so is it fair to say this is a Halo, a battle royale?
No, there might be like a battle royale mode introduced at this point. I mean, I
would pose it in the question for a guy who was working all day and sadly haven't got to see into the footage. Is it more like a Destiny with less RPG?
Yeah.
Destiny
Is that something that interests you?
I mean, I would be honest, anything with the world of Halo. Like I said, the FPSs before the MOBA, it was Halo 2. That was proximity chat, 12-year-old me,
dude,
going
Halo
around slaying
2,
noobs.
a pistol's evolved, right? Wasn't the pistol completely broken in that game?
No, that was Halo 1, where the pistol was basically had everything in a blender attached to it, and there was nothing it couldn't do. It translated over more to, like, standardized BR and less Magnum.
Yeah, dude. Man, Halo Esports, there was this golden era with the MLG. That was pretty hype, man. Dude, Halo Esports.
100% why I'm in esports today is, like, being a kid, 13 years old, watching that on G4 TV. Like, Walshy up there just slapping kids, dude. Just
there was so much energy.
Like nothing.
You know what? The one thing I miss from those days is it seemed as if a trash talking was like a thing that happened all the time and it was like embraced. I say that I'm often criticizing esports teams who try to paint their players as like these like perfect, like golden shiny versions of like, this all-star player, because I just feel as if, like, time and time again we see that what fans actually love is when you just let a player say whatever they want and you let a player be their weird and wild self. Like, we have seen in the Overwatch League, the most popular players constantly leave the league and then become huge streamers because Blizzard keeps wanting to, like, find them every time they do something that's even, like, remotely off cuff. And it's just like, man, maybe we need to go back to those days of people screaming, "You're garbage, you're trash." I don't know. There's something about it. I kind of like that about esports, but yeah.
What about my
Eric?
I mean, I agree. Go ahead.
Eric, did you say something?
Nothing. No, I said my feelings. But what about my feelings?
Oh, what about my feelings? Your feelings are useless. If you can't win in game, I don't care about your feelings. So we got other games too. To be honest, I'm most interested in Fable. I don't know if you guys have ever played Fable but that game's like dope.
Yeah.
I loved Fable when it came out. It was so good. Such an interesting, RPG. So I absolutely love to see that Fable's on this list.
Yeah, I think I think I played through Fable 2 about like a dozen times.
Yeah,
in, like
Fable's
middle
a
school.
good game.
Then, yeah, I really like that game.
I'm
The
also a
original
fan
developer
of,
is no
Phantasy
longer.
Star. Have you played Phantasy
Yeah.
Star too?
No, I haven't touched it.
I played it on the Dreamcast. If you guys remember, the Dreamcast had online capabilities, and Phantasy Star Online was such a good game, dude. Every time I do this podcast, I end up reminiscing about old games, dude. I end up reminiscing about that golden age. So, still, there is no price yet, and there's no date announced either for the Xbox Series X.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's basically like a game of chicken between Sony and Microsoft right now. Nobody wants to be the first to pull the trigger because
price,
they can
yeah.
immediately undercut their their competitor just by like kind of moving some numbers around and stuff. And I get it, especially now with COVID and stuff. People
Yeah.
don't really want to see like a $500 console, that they have to start like saving up for the holidays and stuff, and all the stress and
So,
emotions that kind of come out of that too.
It was
Nobody wants to be the first.
It was that basketball game that came out as being that cost $70, right? $69.99. That's kind of the new normal. For
Yeah,
these games.
2K21. Yeah, and then I saw a report this week. It was like a major publisher. I think it might have been like Ubisoft or something, but on their earnings report call, they said that all of their next gen games are going to be $60, despite what Take-Two is doing. So apparently it's not going to set like a huge precedent for the rest of the industry, but that's also just like one developer saying that they're going to stick to their guns, and that could change like at any moment too. So
Wade, when's the last time you paid full price for a console game, and would you ever pay $70 for a console game?
And it has to be explicitly on a console?
I mean, no. I'll say PC game too. Would you spend $70 for a PC game? Because that's like this new price raise that we're seeing, and I think Eric's completely right about this game of chicken we see with Sony and Xbox about the price, because that's going to make or break. Like, there's going to be just a time where people buy the console because it's $100 cheaper. But I'm curious, as a fellow kind of PC esports tryhard, I feel like my expectation of what a game costs is so skewed. Half of my favorite games are free, and I don't pay anything for them. And then you look over on the console series, and people are like, will I spend $600 for the new PlayStation? Like, damn. So when's the last time you paid like $70+ for a video game?
I mean, I would say the last hard full-priced game that I think I paid for off the top of my head would be Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been a bit. I would say Grand Theft Auto and most things by Rockstar are something that you could increase the price by $30, and I would hesitate, and then I would proceed to buy. But there are very, very few games that I would put that to be the case for. I just personally feel like the depth of some of the creativity that they have behind their games can justify that to me, whereas I don't view most AAA games to sit in that role. So I sit amongst the idea that I honestly do like the idea of less of a here's what a standard game costs, but I realize for consoles that there probably should be a bare minimum since you're buying that CD.
Yeah.
And that game should have a certain threshold of a minimum. But I think too many games, especially as of late over the past probably 5 years, too many games have come out with the intent to just sell without being creative. And I know that kind of goes back to the point of like most games are actually not that new and not being designed. But it really is like, even, we've made the acceptance with like early access games to basically get to the point where we're buying a game that can barely even hold a friends list. And so that I think I would really look for each and every one of those games to ensure what I call like more standard social features and like group features and just game elements themselves are absolutely there. That hasn't, to my understanding, happened too heavily in Xbox, but I do pause, especially for what I would consider simulation games, not racing simulation, but specifically sports simulation games.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the market that you're relying on. Your non-gamer demographic did not give a shit.
Yeah.
And
they're going to buy anyway.
Especially when you look. Yeah, especially when you look those games and you kind of realize that it's the same game over and over and over, year after year after year, and like all the microtransactions that they already cram into those games with like Ultimate Teams, like. Yeah. I mean, it's actually like $1 billion industry, like past the initial like price point, I mean, they're just making so much money off these people that don't play any other game throughout the rest of the year. And yeah, I mean, personally, like a $10 difference isn't going to be like make or break for me if I do really want the game. But I feel like
Eric Moneybags Gindele.
It's I feel like Take-Two definitely shouldn't be the ones like leading this charge with all their sports games. I mean, it's purely greed. You know, it has nothing to do with the costs.
And to mix that with microtransactions, like would be super bothersome to me. To be like, if I'm buying your game, I don't want to be able to pay to win my aspect like through the game itself and gain any influence off of that. And
yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you looked me in the eyes and were confidently going to say this extra $10 ensures the health and livelihood of the actual dev team that is actually putting their shit on the line for this game, I would be like, you know what? They deserved it. We're a little late on that one, Chief. But I don't believe that's where that $10 is going. It's like that $10 is going to the top of the food chain, and those same guys that are sitting there coding, designing, and testing those games are probably going to see none of that. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to spend more if I'm confident it's going to make healthy changes for people who actually are working their asses off.
Dude, this all comes full circle. You know, the only two things I've ever purchased in Heroes of the Storm, the Tempo Storm mount and the MVP Black mount, because those proceeds were supposed to go to the esports teams. I don't know if they ever did, but those are the two mounts that I bought, and I would love to see more stuff like that. But yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, on the other end of the spectrum, you know, not the $70 price point spectrum, like a big part of the Xbox showcase today that they made very clear was all these games are going to be available on Xbox Game Pass at launch.
Yeah.
Oh,
so if you have Xbox Game Pass, which I believe you can still buy for $1 for a month, you're going to get Halo, you're going to get all these, you're going to get Fable, you're going to get all these like indie games, you're going to get all these AAA games.
Damn, that's incredible.
And you're just going to be able to play them like basically for free, which is insane. Bundled with like Epic Games gives away at least like a game or two a week, and they're usually like pretty quality games. Like I know I've gotten into like a couple games that I wouldn't have played otherwise. I've been able to like recommend it to like friends for games that I've already played and gotten them into it. Twitch gives away games if you have Twitch Prime every month. Humble Bundle gives away like 10 games for like $10.
Dude, Eric, you need to start some series where you just outline all of your insane gamer deals. How do you know how to get all these cheap games? You do your homework.
I mean, those are like the bigger ones. They've been around for a while. I will advertise Cheap Ass Gamer on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. They're superstars at that shit, and they track down some like ludicrous deals from like places that you've never heard of, but are super legit. So
Eric, you mentioned with derisive tone in your words that these sports games just put out the same game every year, right? But it's interesting because if I look deep within my own gamer heart, sometimes I wish that the newest Street Fighter game was just like another Street Fighter game that was kind of the same but new, right? Sometimes I wish that the latest Final Fantasy game was just a Final Fantasy game that I've loved and I've come to like expect, right? Like as I grow more of a casual, I start seeing the appeal of just a new version of your favorite game, because every time a new sequel comes out of my favorite game, the mechanics are different, everything's changed, all the characters are changed, and sometimes I hate it. Sometimes it's like, why can't I just play Final Fantasy X again? Why can't I just play Final Fantasy XII again? So, there are some upsides to it, I think, too.
Yeah, it all has to do with, like, player expectation and the rate that you're churning these games out to. Like, would you really want a new Street Fighter game every single year that was just maybe a little better, maybe a little worse than the version that came out, like, the year before, and pay, like, $60-$70 for it?
Eric, I'm a simp for fighting games that are good. Like I really like a good fighting game that's just like some fundamentals, no gimmicks. See, the thing is, fighting games have gotten so there are comeback mechanics in every single fighting game now. Like every single modern fighting game, you get rewarded for getting your ass handed to you. Like literally, the more you get comboed, the more powerful your character gets. And it's just so backwards because some developer decided that, you know what, it's not fun when you're bad at fighting games. So they create this thing, but they completely don't realize that at the highest level, that just skews it so much. It makes every game this campy fest because I'm actively punished for playing Rushdown. I could get into the weeds and angry rant, but sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I would like it if they just kind of made the same thing over again. But anyways, yeah.
I would say I think what you're getting at is like creating too much addition to this. Like, you know, if you start with A and then you decide the next version is going to be A plus B, and then the next version is A plus B plus C, you've only got 26 iterations before you're out of the alphabet, right? Like,
yeah.
And that itself is going to be a very different version than what it was originally. So completely constantly iterating on the same core mechanics oftentimes can become exhausting and pull you away from the thing that you fell in love with, right?
Yeah.
And so I would argue, I agree with you, but I think part of that reason is because everybody's so afraid to make a new game. Is like there is so much safer of a bet in designing the exact same idea with a little bit of a curveball at the end of the day, and just adding that B or that C than it is like, you know what if we started from the back of the alphabet? We're going to start with Z, and then we're going to see if we can add some things as time goes on. And it's just business safe, and that means that it is anti-creative and innovative.
And these sports games are so fine with just riding the line because their audience is always going to be there no matter what. And these fighting game companies, you know, they have to work towards, you know, keeping the audience happy that they have, but also growing it at the same time. And how can you do that by making the same game over again? You know,
and
you have to take that next.
And we've seen games like Teppen take big creative risks and get punished for it. I will simp for Teppen every day because it's a brand. It's like it's Capcom's and Gung Ho. They made this brand new, you know, genre. It's so cool. It's like a fighting game and a card game. It's so much work into it, and then the Western audiences just didn't buy it because it was so different. So first of all, I can't believe we've been talking for nearly an hour, man. This goes quick. So we're in the wrap up stage of our 25th episode, our quarter episode. On this topic of games doing new things, I'm going to end. So we usually use something called wins and fails. We just try to think of something you think is wins, something you think is fails. I'm going to go on a limb and say my win is Fuser. So Fuser is this brand new game by Harmonix, or Harmonix, however you say it. It's not out yet, but honestly, it's doing something completely new. You are a DJ, and it's like a music game that is unlike any game I've ever seen or played. I played it before.
DJ Hero?
Huh? Oh no, trust me.
DJ Hero?
Trust me. It's completely different. They're taking such a revolutionary approach to even what is a video game, because like I know it sounds like I'm like going insane here, but like the gameplay is so freeform that you're essentially just creating like music. And I played it before all of this COVID happened, and I used to travel to conventions. It was so fun. But man, I've been waiting for the release of this game with just a bated breath. And I feel like there are some studios that are still trying to like push the limits. I love Harmonix. You know, they were doing the same thing and putting out the same Guitar Hero game for maybe 8 years, but I really think they've found their own again, and they're making some really creative games. So that's my win for the day. Eric, do you have a win or fail? Do you have something you want to shout out? Something you like in the game industry?
Yeah, so I backed Psychonauts 2 about like 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Like that first game is one of my favorite of all time, and we got a new trailer today, but no release date. So I was like, oh, what the fuck? I'm like really expecting something. And then I saw an article afterwards like, oh, Psychonauts 3 delayed to 2021. And this is like the third year in a row that they've delayed it another year. And I'm just at my
so you backed it? You like gave this company your money? You like pre-ordered or something?
I got kickstarted on Fig is the site.
Dude, when will you learn to never do pre-orders?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know. Like, if I knew like Hollow Knight was going to be like one of my favorite games of all time, I would have put like $200 into that game to get my own like character, get my name in the credits. Like, I would have done it all. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But yeah, you do get burns more often than not with that shit. But
Wade, do you have a win or a fail? Is there something you like in the game industry? You hate?
I mean, I think my lame, because it was part of what we talked about before, win would actually be free to play in Rocket League.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting here complaining about the lack of innovation, but keep in mind, Rocket League has released in the past 5 years, and actually, even though it is a sports game or a racing game, however you want to view it, it is not. It is actually beautiful in the fact that I would argue part of, your fighting game community conversation, we could probably have this offline later, but it's like, I would argue some of the elements of what they decided to take on the game is truly, what if you just controlled the character? And the control is in a game that and you love, we change it a little bit, and then learning to mastery of control this one element is what it makes it stand out.
Dude.
And I think because of that, that's why it rewards literally all calibers of players. Like, I'm 2,000 hours deep, and I still feel like there is something to learn every single day.
Damn,
so
a glowing review.
Because of that, I mean, you didn't take this podcast. If you had asked me at any point over the past couple of years, I would have been like, maybe less so about it as an esports. That's been a recent development. I'm like, ooh, yeah. But as a game itself, it is one of the only games other than maybe like Battle.Right where I'd be like, they changed the game.
Dude,
and they
Battle.Right hype. Oh my God. Battle.Right. Talk about gems. Talk about unseen gems.
Absolute gem.
Dude, like Battle.Right should be a major esport. It's a dope game. It has everything there. It's just some of these games, they have such amazing like PvP, and for some reason it just doesn't bite. Like, there's not this huge. I love Battle.Right, man. It's like the perfect combination of fighting game and MOBA.
And I would argue part of the beauty of Battle.Right in the same tone as what I was just talking about with Rocket League is, think about it. They didn't innovate so colossally. It's not like you hadn't seen a 3v3 spell arena. You played World of Warcraft. That is the original ideas behind Bloodline Champions, which is the predecessor to actual Battle.Right, right? And so it's not that crazy, but they asked themselves, what about the dynamic of control? Yeah. And because there is literally nothing given to you for free, there's always a sense of mastery that is really desirable, and I think pushes the envelope. I do wonder if those games, I don't feel like that's the case for Rocket League, but especially Battle.Right was like so sweaty that people were afraid of it. But that's what gets me going in those games, is like, man, I'll play it all day.
That's how I've been described as before, so sweaty.
So sweaty. You know what, man, I want to bring up a comment about Brawl Stars and their game design philosophy, but that will be for some other podcast because we could go on forever. So this has been episode 25 of the Inven Global Podcast. You can follow me at Nick Durazio 3RD. You can follow our boy Eric at Winko Stainless, though he never tweets, so please bully him. Cyberbully him. Make him tweet. Make him do stuff on social media. Okay. And you can follow Dreadnaught, our special guest, at Wade Penfold, Penfold. Yeah,
dude, congrats on the 10K followers on Twitter. I was lucky number 10K when I went to your profile.
Really?
Like, oh, what? Oh.
Yeah, this is where I'm depressingly going to say that I've actually been beyond that, but because I've quit commentating so much, it's slowly been decaying.
Oh, no.
So I fell below, but I appreciate you keeping the balance above because it makes me feel better about myself. I'll be honest, it means nothing, and I have a terrible social media presence, but for some reason, the second that went below 10K, I was like, I'm dead, dude. The world doesn't care anymore. Like, my career's over.
Yeah, man.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
It's all good, dude.
It's on 10K, man. Yo, so Wade, is there anything that where can people? I mean, is there like any projects you're working on? Is there anything you want to sign off in? Like any shout outs?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff that I'm working on. As you see on my Twitter follower or Twitter banner or whatever the hell that's called, if you want, you can see I'm a part of Wisdom Gaming Group. We do a lot of different things in a lot of different games, to be completely honest. To put a list together, Rocket League, TFT, oh gosh, I'm struggling. Valorant, I'm missing a bunch. Legends of Runeterra, and I feel like I'm still off the mark on somebody there, and somebody's going to be upset at that fact.
All the big ones.
Personally,
all the good ones.
I personally am involved in a lot of what's happening there. So, if you want to support what I'm doing or have an understanding of what I'm doing, a lot of the content generated by Wisdom, in some way, shape, or form, I've been an influence on. And also another side shout out of we actually, I'm working more so with Alpine Esports now, which is actually a professional Rocket League team. So I know I've been saying all that, but I promise that wasn't with that in mind. It has nothing to do with my job. I promise I would have still said all that. And so I would ask that you guys go and support Alpine Esports.
All right, cool. Well, this has been episode 25. We will see you guys next time. You can see everything that Inven Global does at www.invenglobal.com. Stay tuned for